in life, you have to learn to listen to people and sort of pay attention, if you want to learn anything. Now, you might remember these. These are my old strippers from RCA in Harrison. Now, they were having trouble cutting. They don't anymore. This wire's a little tougher to strip sometimes. There you go. Now, the Chinese pair that I bought is the exact same company, exact same model. They don't work at all. Now, what I did was I took a stone to this. And when you sharpen something, it's already been ground. It's just dull. So you take your stone and you catch the angle and you just stroke it a few times. You can put a little oil on it, but you just touch it up and it'll be sharp again and you'll be able to use it. Now, my father would take something and bring it back destroyed every time, okay? And I worked with a guy that had the same attitude as my father. And here's a pair of regular paper cutting scissors. Now, if you look, the blade is slightly bowed to the other one. But if you try to cut somebody's hair with these, the hair gets trapped in there. That's because these are for cutting paper. The ones that cut hair for people or for dogs, they sort of track like this. The blades only touch each other as they're going down. Okay, they cut only in a little spot, so the hair on either side doesn't jam up. And I believe the guy called it tracking, and he used the word tracking and balance. And what had happened was, I knew someone had a dog grooming store, and the girls were complaining the guy charged too much to sharpen the scissors. I think it was $20 at the time. So one day I started talking to the guy, see if he could give me any information. He went over the whole thing like you want to give the business to me. And after he was all done explaining, the scissors come apart. And these don't come apart, but the scissors the girl used, if you open them all the way up like this, the two pieces come apart. And that's so you can put them in the machine and sharpen them. And there's tricks to that. And you're really lapping them in. You're not really grinding them. And he said you can only do a pair of scissors, say 20 times. And I'm like, wow. And he goes, yeah, a pair of scissors, whatever they cost, $80, whatever at the time. And the girls don't like to put that money out. So he comes in and he tries to sharpen the scissors. And he says the biggest problem is women have a habit of dropping stuff and breaking it. And then complaining it shouldn't break that easily. I was laughing so hard when he was telling me that. Because that's my mother. Whenever my mother her big fingers would break something, well, it shouldn't break that easily, Meanwhile, you're putting it in backwards and you're hammering it in. And she'd do her destruction, and I have to fix stuff. And my old man, God bless his soul, he's dead. He couldn't sharpen anything. And the funniest thing I've ever seen was my mother had this favorite comb, and it was a really hard plastic. It wasn't what the hell, it wasn't made out of elephant tusk or seal tusk. And it might have been some type of early Bakelite. And she had this comb since I was a kid. And from combing her hair, the bristles actually wore down. The bristles are the teeth. The teeth actually wore down. And it would go through her hair very easily. So she would go around shopping, and finally she found the exact same pair of basically a comb. I don't know if it's a pair. It's a comb. Anyway, she finds the exact same hair comb, and she brings it home and she tries to put it through her hair, and she's showing it to me. And I go, same company, same design. 30 years later or whatever, how many years later, I said, I looked at her. I said, look, you've been running that through your hair from when you were younger. You actually wore the teeth down. You look at the teeth; they're worn. She goes, oh. I said, yeah. I said, that's why the old comb seems to work better than a new comb. And now, there are people that think that spackling tools, as they get older, the metal gets more flexible, become better, okay? So it's coveted to have a pair of spackling knives, whatever you want, putty knives, whatever the spackling tools, that are flexible and they've been used, and the experts prefer them. So now she's got the new comb and the old comb in her hand. So she shows my father. He takes the comb downstairs and he puts it on the grinder and he grinds the side of the teeth. Okay? And he brings it back to and my mother's all upset. It took her forever to find the exact company. And then she shows it to me. I said, he can't sharpen anything. What do you mean? He doesn't understand sharpening. He doesn't have the concept. And he thinks he does. The most dangerous people in the world are the people that think they really know how to do something. And they do it, and they hand it to you, and it's like, this goes in the garbage. One time my mother had this metal rack. It was from my wall rack from my father's TV repair shop. And she had it down in the washroom, and she put her detergents and stuff on it. So she wanted to cover it with, now I'm going to forget the name of this stuff. You peel it back. Contact paper? Yeah, let's call it contact paper. So my sister says she'll come over and do it. Well, my sister come over and cut a bunch of little pieces and started sticking them haphazardly on this thing. And my mother's standing there going, "Oh, that's coming out really good." I'm like, I'm standing there going, "Are you shitting me?" And I'm keeping it to myself. I walk out of the room. My sister leaves. I come out. I look at this thing. My mother says, "Take that out to the garbage." I said, "What happened?" She says, "Over the phone, she was describing what my mother wanted, a one piece laid over this shelf and bent and folded, and take this out to the garbage." But my sister really thought she was doing a good job. Then I went over to visit my sister. She did her bathroom like that. Different sheets and different mental patients. Okay? These are the people I was surrounded by. So anyway, we'll get back to the comb. My mother goes and gets another comb. And she brings it home. And I make a fixture up to hold it. And I took emery paper, real fine emery paper. And I went in and I spent I don't know how many hours going up and down the comb. Taking the rough edges off the comb, because when comb is first stamped out, some of the teeth have a seam mark on it. And I took those seam marks out of it, and I worked the teeth a little, the teeth of the comb a little bit, handed it to my mother, and it worked. And then my father's like, well, he could not understand that what he did was wrong. He would double down, and I just after a while I stopped arguing with him. Yes, in later years he did become senile. It was something about that, maybe early dementia, I don't know. After about 50 years old, he started to decline, and he would argue and double down on the most stupidest stuff. But I want to tell you, paper scissors, you can cut people's hair with these, but you'll notice it gets jammed in there. Where real scissors for cutting people's hair, tracking, balance, and like the guy said, the problem isn't how many times you can sharpen the scissors. He says they drop them and they bend them, and then they don't think they should break that easily. And they used to break their chairs. They used to knock over the dryers for the dogs, and I used to constantly take them home and repair them and bring them back. I got into that, helping my friend out, and that did not go down a good road at the end anyway. But it's funny. It's like one time his wife called up all in a panic. She couldn't get her husband. And the hair dryer wasn't working. I said, "Oh, that one draws more current." I said, "You got it in the wrong outlet." Well, yeah, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, I go to make a trip all the way up there. And when I got there, as I come through the door, I figured out what you meant. I did. I had it in the wrong outlet. She popped the breaker, and I had to go down and reset the breaker for the outlet. She plugged it in, knocked out some of the lights. But when you deal with women, they're like some of the men. There's men that we call them mechanically inclined. They were mechanically declined. They would screw stuff up. Like that guy I said at work that was just like my father. I had a pair of scissors just like this for cutting paper. We had labels that had to go on our units. And I put a chain on them so no one would steal them. And this guy took the chain off. He took them down the back. And instead of lapping the scissors, see, you take a stone and you run it along here. You can also use a leather strope, and you just touch it up, and it'll be super sharp again. Okay? You got to know how to do it, though. He took this down. He took one of my scissors down, and he ground it like a retard, and he put it back. The next morning I walked in, the first thing I saw, and he goes, "Oh, they cut better than they were cutting before." I said, "It's just like my father." My father would actually hold the scissors in his hand and actually push down real hard, and it would get caught. The paper would go between the scissors, and he would actually convince himself that he made the scissors better. And I've been around those people. And what I did wrong was I kept people as friends and stuff, that I should have moved on. And they say basically you want to feel smart, so you keep dumb people around you. Because you don't want to move on to and be around smarter people, because then you're the dumb guy. And that's what I did wrong. I should have moved on. And like I told the last video, there's a learning curve. And you got to get past that. You got to psychologically, you got to get past being around smarter people. And one of the guys I was around was Ken Recor at RCA. And he pushed me. He goes, you can do this. He goes, yeah. I'm like, dude, you're overwhelming me. Well, I have to work this area of the company. Then they loan me out to other areas. And he goes, yeah, because you can do the work and these guys can't, and they don't want to do the work. Okay, and that's what it all comes down to. You know, like I bought the new clippers. You know, same company, made in China, China on the label, shit on the table, and the 50-year-old pair cuts better because I sharpen it. Now, if you look under an eye loop at the jaws, these jaws are formed and ground, where the other ones look like they were just stamped. And the flashing is still on there. Now, if I take the ones I bought from China and I sit there with a stone, I can fix them. But that's their job, okay? And the finish, my dad used to say, the most important part of a tool is the finish. Well, that's not necessarily true. Some real cheap tools. Now, these might be Williamsons. I don't think they're Craftsman. Well, anyway, some really cheap tools. And this is a cheap tool. This is really good. This is over 50 years old. Okay? And this one here is 40 years old. And I wouldn't say the finish is real great on this tool, but what's really is the tracking, the way these two jaws, am I in the frame here? The way these two jaws come together, the metal it's made out of. See, my father would always say the finish, it's not the finish. It's the mechanical part of the tool and the actual jaws coming together and the sharpness of the jaws. And if these ever got dull, you take a stone, and it might be in Arkansas, real fine stone, and you catch the angle. When you stroke that stone over this edge, you got to hit that angle. Okay, same with a lawnmower blade. Oh, my father he'd butcher lawnmower blades. He'd put them on upside down, and he'd say something to them. Like, I think you got the lawnmower blade upside down again. And I flipped the lawnmower over, and he started arguing. I said, those fins are supposed to be on the top of the blade. And therefore, you explain about the airflow, and he would argue with you. And he pushed the lawnmower for maybe another half hour. Then he'd go get the wrench, and he'd turn the blade around. And then, I guess I had it upside down. Man, when I'm doing something messed up and somebody walks over to me and warns me, man, I love that. I love that. I'm like, thank you. You know, because I didn't catch it. You know, you caught it. You knew. You've done this before. And the other thing I used to do is before I did any project at home, I used to bounce it around the guys at work. And you'd hear the guys that shoot from the hip, that never did the job before, and the one guy warning you. The guy sitting at the table at the lunch room. I got this can of spray insulation, and I pulled off the molding around the door where I had an air leak, and I sprayed that stuff in the wall. And now he's talking, and is anybody paying attention? He says that stuff expands like you can't believe. You got to do a little test spot, and then know how much to spray in there. Because if you spray a lot and fill the void, then put the molding back on and close the door, the molding will come in on the door, and you won't be able to get the door open. Well, this guy tells the story. 2 or 3 other people did exactly the same thing. They went into Home Depot. Somebody handed them a free can of that stuff. They came home and they shot it in places. They froze up doors that they couldn't get open. But meanwhile, there was a guy sitting in the lunchroom telling those guys, we all sat together, and I learned. I would shoot that stuff, and I'd wait to see how far it expands. And then you say, you know what? This stuff's deadly. You know, and there were people giving that stuff out for free for a while. You can really mess stuff up. You can mess the door up. The one guy, he took a sledgehammer, and he was sledgehammering the door jamb back instead of. Well, anyway, that was the way that's all you have to do is you just take a sledgehammer and I was like, oh man, well, I could see your house. If I never did see the one guy's house, I don't even want to think about it because once you see it, you can't unsee it. I think that's it. All right, that's it.